All right. We live? All right. Welcome everybody to AeroInnovate's webinar, Accelerator Success Stories. Today we are joined with Tom Burton, who is the founder of a company called Grypmat. And Grypmat is a 2015 alumnus of AeroInnovate's Accelerator program. And Grypmat also has some very exciting news that they were on Shark Tank about, what, Tom, a month and a half ago?
It was on November 12th.
Yeah. November 12th. And we can talk a little bit about that coming up.
Yeah.
So right now, we're very proud of Tom and the things that he has accomplished. And what we want to talk a little bit about today is not only the Shark Tank experience, but kind of a little bit about the entrepreneurial spirit that Tom has and how he saw a problem and created a solution for that problem, and then how he's bringing that solution to market. And part of that is through AeroInnovate, and part of it is through Shark Tank, and part of it is just hard work on his own. So we can talk all about that coming up here. So our agenda for today, if I could get the slide to move forward. Bear with me for a sec. There we go. So our flight plan or our agenda for today is we'll talk a little bit about our presenters, which I kind of started to do. We'll talk a little bit about AeroInnovate, talk about Tom and the Grypmat and what problem and solution that he was able to come up with, and then Grypmat's AeroInnovate experience, and then going to talk a little bit about Tom's experience on Shark Tank, and then how life has been since Shark Tank. And then, of course, at the end, we'll open it up to any questions, Q&A that the group may have. Tom, looks good for you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Great. So again, it's my pleasure to introduce Tom Burton. He's the founder of Grypmat, and again, the 2015 AeroInnovate alum. And my name is Steve Slocum. I'm the director of AeroInnovate, and we are located in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where it is a balmy 21 degrees here in January. And Tom is normally based out of Ohio, but he's currently at a conference in New Orleans. And Tom, what's the weather like there in New Orleans?
Yeah, it's actually snowing here, and there's a lot of ice. So there was some freezing rain last night too.
That's fantastic. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. So yeah. Be safe while you're in New Orleans, and hopefully you don't have to drive anywhere. Hopefully you can just walk.
Yeah, the thing is, everywhere I've been between Wisconsin and Ohio, it's always been super cold. So it's just like less cold here, so I'm okay with it. But the locals don't think the same way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if I may indulge everyone for a few minutes of just to talk a little bit about what AeroInnovate is and what we do, and then we can get into our guest, which is what everyone wants to hear is Tom. So for those of you that may not be familiar with an accelerator, I found this quote and I thought it was extremely appropriate for what we do as an accelerator. The goal of an accelerator is to help a startup do roughly 2 years of business building in just a couple months. In the AeroInnovate's case, that is a couple months. Our program is 8 weeks long, and it runs from the beginning of June to the end of July, where we culminate here in Oshkosh. And this general manager, Brandery, goes on to say, if you go through a good one, a good accelerator, you'll know at the end where your startup, founding team, and business stand. And I think Tom can probably talk to that a little bit about that, but do you feel that's the case, Tom?
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic. So a little bit about AeroInnovate. Again, we were founded at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh in 2007. We were founded through an organization here on campus called the Business Success Center, which is meant to reach out and connect businesses with campus resources. And AeroInnovate really reaches out because we go beyond the city of Oshkosh and the state of Wisconsin, and we are in aviation and aerospace across the globe. Our Accelerator helps aero innovators from across the world start and grow their aviation and aerospace related business and bring new technologies to the market. And we also facilitate the alignment of passionate and successful investors and mentors with the best aviation related opportunities. And really that's where Tom and GripMac come in, as well as being an alum. And then we have a partnership with the Experimental Aircraft Association, the EAA, which is based here in Oshkosh. We also have a partnership with Boeing Horizon X Ventures, which is very exciting, and they're deeply involved in our accelerator. They came on board in 2017. And we also have a partnership with University of Wisconsin Oshkosh. So some key dates for our accelerator. Again, as I had mentioned, we run an 8-week program. The application deadline for 2018 is March 16th. We will then go through and interview every single applicant, and our final decisions will be made public on Friday, May 4th. And then our 8-week program begins on June 1st. And we have a virtual accelerator, so you can be based literally anywhere in the world, and we connect via technology multiple times a week. And then we'll have a pitch camp here in Oshkosh. So we require the cohort to come into town while 7 weeks are virtual. The last 8th week is the 8th week is here in Oshkosh. And that's a good thing because it also coincides with 590,000 people coming into Oshkosh for EAA AirVenture. So it's a crazy time for aviation aerospace. Everybody who is somebody in the investment world or the business world that touches this industry is often in Oshkosh for that week. And that's really why we then have our Pitch and Mingle event, which is our quote unquote demo day, on Wednesday, July 25th at night. We have it in a hangar, so we have the true aviation experience. The air show is going on right outside of our door, and it is a fantastic environment to pitch your business. Here's some of our social media links. And with that, I want to turn it over to Tom. So, Tom, you had a problem, and you came up with a solution, and that solution is GripMac. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm an F-16 mechanic in the Air National Guard, and I was tied to my tools lighting up the aircraft. And the picture you're looking at now is actually from what I call the dark ages. The green mat is what I made made the mold in my dad's barn during Thanksgiving break, and ended up making the product in my basement. And what he's standing on is a sheet of material that I basically begged a company to send me some of their product. So yeah, I was tired of my tools sliding off the aircraft, and later in my mom's car, I noticed she had a non-slip mat in her dashboard to keep her cell phone in place when driving. And I just was like, Mom, where'd you get this? And she does extreme couponing, so she goes in and out of like every store. And she's like, I don't know, probably like Walgreens or CVS. I was like, well, what's it called? She's like, I don't know. And so I just kept going to all these different stores. And turns out CVS has an automotive aisle. It's just random knickknacks that you put in your car, air freshener or on the dash. And I found the material. So that's where I started. And I just kept asking, how I can make more of that type of material, and started making prototypes, and then just kept moving forward.
That's really interesting. And as you're talking about the mat that he's standing on there, so that is something that you that's the mat that he's standing on is not something that you made, is something that you got and kind of helped you with the idea. Is that?
Yeah, that basically there's a company that makes it in like really big rolls.
Okay.
They're typically like 3 or 4 feet wide, and then you'll buy it by the yard. They typically will sell a couple hundred yards at a time. So when I was emailing the sales lady, she I didn't understand that it was $150 a yard. I thought the whole thing was $50, and I was like, oh, well, I need 10 yards. So to me, as like I was in college, I was like, holy crap, this is going to be $1,500. And she's used to like selling, 500 yards at a time. So I could tell she was like super annoyed, like talking to me. So I played the whole card like I'm a college student, and kind of they ended up giving me like some scrap material that they didn't need. It was a little defective, but whatever. It's what I needed at the time. But yeah.
Well, I think the lesson there for, for entrepreneurs is, the problem can come, from so many different places. I think oftentimes we think that things have to be so huge and kind of that, those, they call it, the $1 billion unicorn type ideas. And actually, while those are great, while the Facebooks of the world and Twitters are fantastic, I think this is what really drives economy is small businesses coming up with an idea that solves a problem that's super practical and that really transcends a lot of different industries as well. This was born in aviation, but it can go everywhere.
Right. Yeah, so, I think kind of what you're talking about with the unicorns. I don't think anyone is like born a unicorn, where typically they have a very small practical idea that they're fixing, and then they're growing into other markets and ideas that they're fixing. For example, Snapchat, if they were to just only have 10-second pictures that go away, no one would ever. They probably would have came and went, but they kept innovating and kept growing, and that's what made them into a unicorn.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So here's a picture of you, kind of looks like in a high school shop class.
Yeah. So this is a automotive shop class, and we donated, I think, like 20 or 30 of the Grypmats, and we're definitely going to be moving into, working with more, colleges and trade programs for high school kids. Definitely want to basically train these kids to grow into, constantly getting in the habit and constantly using the Grypmat. So basically giving them those skills, the basic skills. The Grypmat is giving them, like, the way I view it, basic skills that's going to increase their chance of employment. And we have a lot of like really exciting stuff going on with this, especially I think this is the direction that we're going to end up going with our Shark Tank update.
Fantastic.
So really exciting. Yeah.
And some examples of your product and kind of your warehousing and inventory at this point. And I'm guessing that many of those boxes may have been packed by you personally.
That's how we have it. That's how we have it come in from the factory, but all those boxes were inspected by me personally.
There you go. Well, let me go back and say, yeah. I'm guessing before you got to this scale that you did a lot of hands-on.
Yeah, the thing is, there was an issue with the warehouse that we basically had to hand inspect everything, which was a nightmare. And honestly, looking at this photo, I'm like, why do we have so little stock? But yeah, so this is this is only a couple months old, but the last couple times that we've got our stock in has been significantly larger, so which is definitely exciting.
Well, that's right. That's fantastic, and it's all part of the growth. And I mean, again, this is a great startup success story with having an idea and bringing it to market and bringing it to be successful. And it's probably pretty humorous, probably pretty scary, and probably pretty fulfilling for you to see your warehouse small and now know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's a little history, and I want to kind of have you talk a little bit about your experience with AeroInnovate. Now, this was a couple years ago. It's 2.5 years ago, and I see there you still have the green prototype. I would, by the way, I would love your story on how it went from green to orange. But I would also like to hear, a little bit about your thoughts on AeroInnovate and how that may have helped you as a as a new business person and as a growing business?
Yeah. So actually here at the conference, close to actually probably a year before I did AeroInnovate, I did a military trade show, and here at the conference, someone asked me about the sample that I sent them, and it was a green one, which all the green ones were made in the basement. And I actually made them green because green is one of my base's colors. So I was trying to suck up to the base to convince them to buy the Grypmats. So I was like, okay, I'll make them green. So, so then,
hey, know your market. Know your market.
yeah, very niche market was what I was going for. And then, as actually just before AeroInnovate, we got the wings as the logo. The logo before that was hideous, but so kind of dealing with that, graphic designers, when we switched over to orange. And in my mind, we were going to have like bright orange and bright green be our colors, which now that's now that from what I know now, that's like a no-go with graphic design stuff. So yeah, the orange, it's like more of a hazard, want to keep it bright so you can easily see your tools inside the tray. And the way I kind of wanted it is I want someone to see it across the hangar on a plane and know that someone's working on the plane or that's not supposed to be there. So that was kind of my mindset of having the bright orange. And, obviously, naturally, everyone sees bright orange and kind of thinks of a hazard. So, yeah, and then with AeroInnovate, yeah, definitely at the time, they had a little bit of cash that they gave each team, which now it's, from what I've heard, it's more, which back then, anything was a huge, back then I was like extremely broke, so anything definitely helped. I remember, I think the AeroInnovate came in like 2 separate checks, and each time I remember like waiting for it to come through in the mail because I'm like, okay, I really need this money. So yeah, Aero was also the big thing for AeroInnovate was the exposure. Just obviously being at Oshkosh was huge. Having a booth there, which now I'm like paying full price for the booth. Where I remember the first year I was like, can I get like a discount or something? Jesus. So yeah, that's huge value in having that booth, and the pitch and mingle, really good networking event. So yeah, I kind of view I see these accelerator programs and people get super excited and feel that they have made it when they get into the accelerator program, which I view AeroInnovate and any accelerator program as a stepping stone for a successful person to take. Like, this does not make you successful.
Absolutely.
This, it's a step in the right direction, but you have to take it. You have to keep pushing your stuff forward. It's not like I get it accepted to AeroInnovate and then I can go on vacation and the AeroInnovate team's pushing my stuff forward. You're going to get out as much as you put into it. And yeah, I put everything I could into it, and it's working out. So yeah, to me it's a really good program, and I've been emailing some people this morning about applying to the AeroInnovate program.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, there's not, like in any business, and we're a nonprofit, but in any business, referrals are really a lifeblood. And I'm sure you probably have seen that with people, like you said, you had sent some of your Grypmat products out, and then probably word of mouth, and that's word of mouth and referrals are huge. So I appreciate that from an AeroInnovate perspective, because if a company, and that's really one of the reasons why we want to do this webinar as well, is because a company hears someone like you who has gone through the program and had success, and you're saying, yeah, do this, you need to check these guys out. That's huge from us. And so I definitely appreciate that. And I also appreciate, your comment about you thinking that, if you get accepted to AeroInnovate or any accelerator for that matter, you've made it. But you're absolutely correct. It is a stepping stone, and that would be something that I would want to make sure that we discuss with any entrepreneur is, just because you've made it into any accelerator, the checks aren't going to just start showing up at your door. There's a lot of work that can be done. But as we saw in that definition of one of the first slides, what we're really here to help companies do is to, as the name says, accelerate their growth. And so get you from, and that's like baseline stuff, right? The nuts and bolts. So, what may have taken you 6 to 12 months on your own because you don't have the connections and, you don't know who to speak to. That's where I feel an accelerator can really help, because we can get you in front of mentors and in front of companies like Boeing and Sikorsky and Lockheed, and in front of patent attorneys and folks that can help you out where normally you wouldn't have that help, and accelerate your business along. And I really think that's a huge benefit. And is it going to lead to checks? I hope so. But like you said, that you still have to, what you get out of it, what you put into it. And I agree with that 100%. So points well taken. And so what else we have here? You're going to talk a little bit about your pitch and mingle experience, because here you are talking about Grypmat in front of the pitch and mingle audience.
Yeah, so I thought it was a great experience. The thing is, I've pitched on several other events, so I feel like a lot of people get stage fright, especially if it's their first time. A couple things with speaking that I always tell people is that, one, everyone is nervous. Even if I'm on stage and I don't seem nervous, I'm still, everyone has nerves to a point. So don't feel alone in that situation. And one thing is, a lot of times, especially if you have to hold a microphone, the thing is, no one knows that you're nervous except for you, unless if you show it. So basically, if you're holding a microphone and you're shaking so much that the microphone is shaking, just try to keep your hands to your torso. So I'll just lay the microphone on my chest, and so my hand's not sticking out, like shaking badly. So if it, like in that picture, I got a pointer. If you're holding the pointer and your hand shaking, just hold hold it next to your side, so it doesn't so it doesn't look like you're shaking. But I noticed a lot of the other people that were presenting were nervous, or try to I sometimes when they get really nervous, they kind of need to read off the slides, and that just kind of bores everyone. If you, within your PowerPoint, if you can just have like bullets or a picture that's going to make you talk, then that's the best route that you can go. And that's how I do it. Of just, I need, I got a direction I want to go with the presentation, and I just need those bullets to remind me what I wanted to say about those things. And if you can't do that, like you need to brush up on your company more, just because it's, you should be able to talk about your own company. You should be doing it night and day. So, and definitely the more speaking events you can get to, the better, just to help with those nerves. My very first event was Startup Weekend, and then went to Pitch and Pour, which was a different event in Toledo, and then kept doing a couple other things, and then finally got to the Pitch and Mingle. So I probably looked like a pro to some of the people out there, but I thought it was a great experience. Got a lot of contacts, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like anything, whether it's a sport or whether it's public speaking, it takes practice, and the more you do it, the better you get. So, with that in mind, speaking of AeroInnovate, that's really, the 7 weeks leading up to coming here on site, we will go through pretty extensive, I think, in this past year, training program to help you with your pitch deck and your executive summary. So when you get on site here in Oshkosh, then we kind of cap that, you're ready to go. And then we cap that off when you come on site here with our pitch camp. And that is the Saturday and Sunday prior to AirVentures kickoff. AirVentures starts on a Monday. In 2018, it will start on Monday, the 23rd of July. And our pitch camp is, again, that Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, we bring everybody together, and the cohort of 5 companies get up and go through practice rounds of their pitch, so they're ready. Because the last thing we want is you to get up there on Wednesday evening and not be prepared. And so for 7 weeks you're preparing, and then the rubber really hits the road for pitch camp. And then on Sunday of pitch camp, we invite in kind of a friendly audience. And Tom, you were at pitch camp on Sunday in 2017. Yeah. And we have our founders go through kind of a dress rehearsal and pitch in front of a friendly audience, and the audience can offer some feedback. What were your thoughts from being both a participant of pitch camp and then coming back? I think you've been back a couple times as a guest in the audience for pitch camp.
Yeah, I think with seeing a lot of people present and seeing their, a lot of people are nervous or whatever. Something that has helped me is just breaking it down into like 3 categories: problem, solution, and why I care. Right. The thing is, the faster you get to your solution or whatever it is, the better, because the thing is, that's the only thing that people are going to remember you as. There's so many people that remind me or know me as the GripMat guy or the orange tray guy or whatever. They're never going to remember my name. So the thing is to start out with in the presentation of something that they will never remember doesn't make any sense. So if you're like, hi, my name's Tom Burden, and I was born and raised in Ohio, and I went to University of Toledo for engineering. Like, no one's gonna remember that. They're just gonna be like, all right, the problem is this. We had this product that's the orange tray, and then later you can go into there, okay, why should we believe in you? Well, because I'm an F-16 mechanic, and I was tired of my tools sliding off the aircraft, and I have the experiences being a mechanic, and I also have engineering experience. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I feel like do the credibility kind of afterwards, and like who you are afterwards. I feel like it's really powerful to get that solution out as soon as possible and make sure people fully understand the problem, because sometimes you have like a really in-depth problem that people may not get that are in the crowd. So I guess that's my 2 cents with speaking.
Yeah, I think that those are excellent points. And with our pitch and mingle format, the companies have 5 minutes. And so, we're really working with them to become succinct and, to your point, do exactly what you said. Talk about the problem, talk about the solution, and talk about why I should care. Because, you will be pitching in front of a group of investors and industry professionals in our pitch and mingle. And if they don't, like you said, if they don't clearly understand the problem and what you're doing, and most importantly, why anyone should care, because you may think you're solving the best problem in the world, and if nobody cares, it's not an investable idea, and it dies right there. So you're absolutely right. You have to get those points across and get them across quickly and succinctly. So moving on, so you went from our pitch and mingle audience to these guys.
Yeah, right after pitch and mingle, I went right on stage.
Yeah, right. Well, to be fair, it was 2 years later, but certainly your program. I would love to hear how you feel. From 2015 to 2017, you evolved as a business person, as a founder, and in what got you ready to be in front of some billionaires. I mean, Mark Cuban is a billionaire. Branson is a billionaire. I'm not quite sure about some of the others, but if they're not billionaires, they're very, very, very wealthy. So that's an intimidating crowd. So tell us, let's kind of walk us through those 2 years and how you got to this point.
Yeah. So the year after AeroInnovate, we finally got the first batch of GripMats, which was the GripMat original, which is pretty similar to the large. And I got a 10x10 at Oshkosh, I think in hangar A, or maybe it was hangar B. I'm not sure which hanger, but I know it was not hanger D. But anyway, so I brought like 600 Grypmats. Oh yeah, our stock came in like 3 days before, which I was sweating pretty hard because I'm like, if we miss Oshkosh, like that's not good. So I brought 600 Grypmats, and then the first day I sold 14, and I was like, crap, this is going to be rough. And we just pushed really hard, and by the end of the show, we sold out. So that was really exciting. And you know, after that, everyone was like, you know, you need to have smaller sizes, and they're giving me all their ideas. So we kept selling the Grypmat original, and then did a Kickstarter for the small, medium, large, and we ended up raising total about 170,000. On the Kickstarter itself, there was pre-orders was about 170,000. On the Kickstarter itself, it was 113,000, and that was one of the roughest couple months of my life was that Kickstarter. We worked on it about a month or two before, and then you know, that month while it's happening is it's extremely hard to raise money. And yeah, so our internal goal was to hit 6 figures, and from that, there's basically 2 ways to sign up for Shark Tank. There's you can just go on their website and fill out an application, and then there's also scouts that'll help get people, that'll get some attention towards Shark Tank and get people to sign up. So I got a call from a scout that saw our Kickstarter video, and it was pretty cool when they called, because you need to do a written application and then also a video application. So the Kickstarter video fulfilled all the requirements for the video application. So she said, you know, if you want to do this, I can submit the video application right away, and you'll basically be the first one to have the video submitted, and you'll get the most exposure. And I was like, all right, sweet, let's do it. And actually, the year before, I had a scout reach out to me because I guess in my area they were looking for a military entrepreneur to be on the show, and everyone was like, you got to talk to Tom Burton. So they reached out to me, and what happened was, this was just before Oshkosh 2016, and we had no sales. And I did not want to be that guy on Shark Tank that's like, you know, has this cool product, and then they're like, what's your sales? Because that's an obvious like question.
Yep.
And be the guy that's like, oh, we don't have any sales. So no, then, and kind of like what I was thinking of, you know, Oshkosh 2016 is like, that was a big stressor of like why I wanted to have that product come in for Oshkosh so we could really start doing sales, because, you know, I've been wanting to be on Shark Tank for years. And so yeah, they submitted the application, which, doing paperwork with Shark Tank, the only time I've done more paperwork was when I joined the Air Force. So there's be ready for that. Wow. If, you know, you're trying to, you know, be on the show. But so yeah, there's about 60,000 people that apply, and then when you get into the top 1,000, you'll get your own producer, and then they'll have about 150 people that'll film, and then 120 people who film will actually go on the air. So when you get a producer, they're basically trying to figure out, they'll call you probably once a week or twice a week and ask random things from you of like, you know, do a presentation in front, you know, that you would do in front of the sharks. So yeah, like another thing people ask me is, how staged is Shark Tank? Where typically, or basically what happens is, when you go out, like you'll walk down the hallway, and then you'll stop on this like little X on the ground, and then they'll give you the cue to go. And then when you go, when you stop talking and a shark asks something, like I think my first question was from Mark if he had samples. After that, there's no rehearsal. So your little pitch that you do at the beginning, that's the only thing that you have like rehearsed, and then everything after that is just the sharks asking you random questions. But the thing is, like through the process, Kate, who was my producer, asked me, she was like, just write down, I think it was 50 questions that I think that the sharks will ask me. And which is pretty obvious if you've ever watched the show, you know, what's
Right.
your, you know, sales and, you know, your cost. That's typically like the first two of the first 5 questions. And then, yeah, so every time the producer would call me, I would just, you know, do everything I could to sell my story. Turns out there was a point where she was like, turns out we're going to have a guest shark. I think it's going to be, you know, a fit. And she goes, he does things with space. And I was like, if it's Elon Musk, I'm going to freak out. She goes, no. Yeah, she's like, it's not Elon Musk, but he does things with planes too. And I was like, oh, it's Richard Branson. And she goes, I'm not allowed to tell right now, but that's a really good guess. I was like, is it the guy from Amazon? She goes, no, not him. I was like, the first guess was good. And so, yeah.
I can't tell you, but
yeah, good guess. Right. So then later on, there was a point where it was public that she told me, yeah, it's going to be Richard Branson. And so I started researching him a lot, and I started researching all the sharks. And turns out Richard and I have the same birthday, which Kate, once I gave that to Kate used that for leverage to help get me on the show. Because the thing is, when you get a producer, you know, they roughly will have 100 people that they need to narrow down to like 10. So, you know, why are they going to pick you instead of the next person? So if any advantage or leg up that you can get, you got to do it. So like one thing she asked me was, can you get a plane on stage? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can get a plane on stage. And I was like thinking, I have no idea how to get a plane on stage, but
just say yes, right, and figure it out later.
Yeah, I was like, I go to enough of these aviation trade shows. Like, I'm just gonna ask everyone. Like, somebody I know could figure it out. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of Hanger Swap, Rachel from Hanger Swap. I was like, hey, I need a plane in California. Like, we're gonna be. I think I might have told her about the situation, and I was like, can you do it? And she was saying that she was trailering 3 planes out to California like a couple days before, just coincidentally, and that they had room for a 4th one. And I was like, oh, sweet. I was like, I don't really know how much it's going to cost, but we gotta do it. And later on, it turns out that we found a prop house that's in LA, which a prop house is basically it's any random thing that they'll have to that people will use on TV. And yeah, so another couple fun facts about Shark Tank. When you finally get the tour to walk down the hallway, everyone who's walking down the hallway will like be humming the Shark Tank music to themselves, like dun 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 dun. Dun. The thing you don't really know it until the guy like said something to us because he was laughing about it. And then another funny thing is on the set there's an empty chair, and you can actually see it in this picture. I don't know why they have that empty chair. It's, you know, they got like stairs going up to the empty chair, but yeah, this is like the new set that they had for this season. And whenever I tell people that there's an empty chair, they're like, where? I don't see. I don't, because they're
it's
like
up above.
Yeah. And the thing is, Kate's assistant's name was Cooper. I was like, why do they have the empty chair? And she's like, that's Cooper's chair. And I was like, seriously? Like, I don't know why. And I don't know why they just have an empty chair there. But I'm just part of the set, I guess. But
I've never noticed it before. It's kind of in the shadows up on top.
Yeah, you even built a slideshow. It's kind of funny. But yeah, so the thing is, when you'll get to a point where they'll say, all right, you need to keep this time blocked off in your calendar. They're like June 11th through the 29th. Because what happens is that it costs so much to run the set and have the sharks there and you know, the whole camera crew, that they constantly want to have entrepreneurs on standby in case if someone gets sick or they, people go fast and they can squeeze in one more. So what happens is you never really know if you're going to be in front of the sharks until it happens. So they just said, keep this time blocked down in your calendar, and we'll give you a call to fly out to LA. So then we get the call, we're out at the hotel, and then they're like, we'll let you know if we can get you in to do a practice run. So you can fly out there and just hang out at the hotel, and they come back and say, hey, couldn't get you in, sorry, come back next year. Or do the application process again next year, which would be horrible. But we get us to the hotel, and then they're like, all right, we want you to do a practice run. So you could even do a practice run and still not get it. So I actually bombed the practice run really, really bad, to the point where Kate had to like yell out my next line to get me to keep going. What happened was, like, I've been envisioning this every day for like years. And every day that I would get closer to being on Shark Tank, I'd get more and more details within my vision of like what was going to happen. Like I would see what sharks were going to be there, what order the sharks were going to be, what I was wearing, what was going to be on stage, and stuff like that. So I was envisioning so hard of like what the order the sharks were going to be in. And towards the end of my presentation, I referenced each shark of like, the GripMat can be used for making hats in your garage, on rockets, or making computers out of your garage, and makeup, or on your car. And when in the practice run, they had pictures of each shark. And the thing was, they just had like the generic sharks, like Kevin was up there and Barbara. And like when I went to like turn towards the shark, I'm seeing a picture of a different shark, and I was like, my brain just couldn't handle it. And I was just like under so much pressure, because I'm thinking, man, if I mess this up, I won't, present in front of the real sharks. And so I did a horrible job. And then I asked if I could do it again. And the director from the back of the room, he's like speed walking towards me, and he goes, no, we don't have time to do another one. And he just takes a selfie with the jet. And then everyone got out of their seats and started taking pictures with the jet. And everyone was just super pumped about the jet being on stage, that it just, that helped me get on the real stage. So the next day we had the day off, and Ray's a guy that's on the Grypmat team. He joined just before Shark Tank. He used to work for ESPN, and so he knows a lot of like TV stuff. And Ray and I just were in the back of the parking lot all day, just practicing the presentation over and over and over again. And he would give me, ask me questions and stuff, that, obvious questions that we think the sharks are going to ask. But so that went out there and had a lot more confidence when I finally got out there, and knocked it out. It was kind of one of those things. I was honestly like really hard on myself before, and I was dealing with this thing called imposter syndrome that a lot of people have. I was making this thing in my basement, and now I'm, going from basement to billionaires. So it's kind of like, oh crap, I almost feel like I'm an imposter or someone that shouldn't be doing that. So that's what I was struggling with at the time. But something I've always kind of told myself is that no opportunity will be lost due to my effort. So typically, I think about this when I'm at a trade show. Like when I was at AeroInnovate, had that free booth. One thing that we were doing, or that I was doing, is taking pre-orders. And I had this guy who was a partner, if you will, saying that he was going to come and he was going to bring all these people, and we're going to, have this team at the booth. And it turned out that none of the people came, and he couldn't come, and it was just me at the AeroInnovate booth. And I was trying to take pre-orders, and I don't know if you've ever taken pre-orders, but it was extremely hard. And there was a point where I was just like, actually in the middle of the week, I called my friend saying that I wanted to quit. And because I was like, I could come up with a different idea. I don't think this idea is going to work. And I remember just kind of thinking, I'm not going to let my emotions prevent me from losing any opportunity at this trade show. So, you know, I remember there was almost every single day I would not eat lunch or I would not go to the bathroom because I'm going to be there at the booth, and because I don't want that person to walk by. That's going to be my opportunity, and I'm off getting lunch with somebody. So
Right.
that was just kind of how I treated it, and that was kind of the same thing when we got to Shark Tank. Of, we're in LA, we're about to go in front of the Sharks. My goal was to get those 3 sharks. And the thing is, what I would kind of tell myself is that I can get those 3 sharks. The only thing that has to happen is I have to present in the right way. I have to, if the right combination of words come out of my mouth, I'll get those 3 sharks. If I do it in the right way, it'll work. And so, I just gave a lot of energy and stuck to my guns, and it worked. So yeah, that's long story short. We get Lori, Mark, and Richard. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was just going to ask about that. And here's a picture of you doing your. So basically, you did this all when you walked out that door. You did this in one take. There was no production magic going on.
Yeah, there was actually one. So the thing is, when you film, it's about 45 to an hour and a half. 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So they cut that down to 12 minutes. There was actually one part I did freeze at where you can't really tell, but there's a point where I'm talking about the alternatives that mechanics are using now, like t-shirts, rags, muffin trays, and I say urinal cakes. And there's some jokes cracked about Lori and urinal cakes. Like, hey, Lori, if you want to invest, you better familiarize yourself with those urinal cakes. That's what like Mark and Damon John were saying. And so the thing is, that happened for like 15, 20 seconds. And then when I went to go back, I was like, gosh, crap, I don't know where I left off at. But then, yeah, well, I picked it up real quick. It was actually to the point Richard started laughing. Once he started laughing, it got me going again. And so yeah, did the presentation really well. And then there's some like tricks that we know now with the Grypmat that I wish I would have done on stage. Like, we can pick up a stool with the small, and like that. I always kind of think that table that's in front of them, I could have picked that up with a small, and that would have been great for TV, and they would have freaked out. But I definitely did have no regrets of the outcome. But
that's fantastic. So speaking of the outcome, can you tell everybody who may not have seen it, and I'm going to provide a link so everybody can see it, but for those who have not, can you just kind of summarize the deal and what happened there?
Yeah, so got 3 sharks to go in, 10% a piece at $120,000. So the 3 sharks were Richard, Mark, and Lori. And some people say, ask why not Robert, which Robert is a big car guy. Our guy Ray has a lot of connections within the automotive industry. Not saying that Robert couldn't help. I felt like we had the automotive industry squared away pretty well. The thing is, Robert's known for cybersecurity. Same thing with like David John. He made a couple offers. The thing is, everyone knows that Damon John's known for clothing, so it just clothing and cybersecurity just didn't make any sense. So yeah, it's kind of interesting seeing the 3 sharks. I talked to Lori the most directly, and I work with Mark's team the most, and then Richard's definitely the most outspoken. So yeah, it's pretty exciting working with the 3.
So total of $360,000 for 30% equity in Grypmat, and it sounds like they are. I guess I'm not expecting you to be talking to them on a daily basis, but it sounds like they're involved.
Yeah, I typically want to get a someone from each team that I can just send a text to. Because sometimes it's stuff that I don't need all of them, to for my questions. I just need the expert in that situation. For example, we're doing a lot of things with Amazon. So the guy on Mark's team that I am typically talking to is John Simon. So I just shoot John a text like, hey, we're having this issue with Amazon, or we found this, do you have any insight on that? And there's been a few times where he'll say, I'll ask Mark about it, or if I send, they want me to send weekly updates. So I did one this morning, but the one before, I did a weekly update and had them all CC'd, and I was talking about how we should do the Shark Tank update. So they're just kind of like Mark was talking about timing, and then also like who to contact within Shark Tank. So like for example, we can't do a Shark Tank update this season, but most likely next season, because if you can't have a fast enough turnaround time that you could air on Shark Tank and then have an update the same season.
Yeah.
And then another fun fact is that when you get a deal on stage, there's about 10% of the deals that go of all the deals that go on stage, about 10% will actually go through. So for me, I feel like leaves like a huge opportunity and like low hanging fruit for us to get a Shark Tank update. We just have to, put our heads to the grindstone and knock it out so we can, stand amongst the rest. It's just because they're not going to do a Shark Tank update for someone who got a deal on stage, but, didn't get one in real life,
Right.
They do updates sometimes for people who did not get a deal. That is pretty rare, but I just kind of felt like we do have a window that we can definitely knock it out in.
So hopefully next season then we'll see a Grypmat update and see all the success that you've had and the working relationship that you had with those three. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So here they are. They're having their spirited conversation in this picture, and in this one, I do have the entire video embedded here, but I think for time purposes, what I will do is, Tom, you have this video. I'll link to it on your Facebook page. Is that correct?
Yeah. University of Toledo posted it. I don't know how they got the video, but I know I've always had some troubles getting sharing the video, but they got it, and it's on Facebook, so it went pretty viral. I think like 3,000 shares or something. Yeah.
So I would suggest then anybody going to Grypmat's Facebook site and checking that out. Are there any other social media or any other contacts that you would like to put out there right now?
Our strongest points on social media is Facebook, and then also Instagram. Definitely growing our Instagram, and that's the best place to follow us. Also, if you just add me directly on Facebook, I'll add you back.
Fantastic. So before we wrap up here, kind of some post Shark Tank traction, and you had talked about this a little bit. You had touched on your thanks to one of your teammates, Ray, your entry into the automotive world, and in kind of that follow up that you're going to have on Shark Tank. Anything else that you want to talk about that you think folks out there that maybe fellow entrepreneurs would like to hear about?
Yeah, right now our main focus is scaling our inventory, and then just kind of being evasive in all these different markets, and definitely understanding the full market of the Grypmat. Like right now I'm at a military event. I've been getting a lot of attention from medical, going all these different routes. Like Lori wants a pink one for makeup. No, she wants a white one for makeup. But so testing these different markets. I guess for another entrepreneur, tips that would really help is if you're selling a hardware product, definitely be on Shopify. They will guarantee that your website will not crash. They have a lot of safety. And they're just like there was a period where I didn't know if I want to go Shopify or I can't remember the other route, but the thing is Shopify is built for online stores. So it's definitely the best. And yeah, there's plenty of apps that can really help out. This picture was at SEMA, which we did the SEMA Launchpad competition, which was pretty cool. That won us $10,000, and then there was also a lot of exposure. Kind of reminds me of AeroInnovate, just the automotive version of it. So we found out that we were going to be on Shark Tank like right before the competition. So when we're going into the competition, we're like, yeah, we're going to be on Shark Tank, and I'm like, there's no way anyone else is going to have be able to one up this. So that was pretty exciting. Yeah,
that is great, and I give you a lot of credit because we spent time together during AirVenture here in Oshkosh in July, and you knew about all this and didn't say a word about it. So I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, that was funny. It's kind of funny seeing people like then and now. They're like, oh, it's GripMat, but now they're like, oh, it's GripMat. The Shark Tank people. So yeah, it'd be definitely excited to come back this following year.
Great. It's definitely helped your brand a lot, and hopefully it appears to be helping your sales a lot as well. So it sounds like all that paperwork that you had to go through and all the hoops and the kind of the agony of waiting and wondering, it sounds like it's worth it now.
Oh yeah, definitely a huge brand jump, which is kind of interesting with the way the video is when you watch it. It kind of focuses on me negotiating with sharks versus on the product. So with the sales, we did see a massive spike, but they thought it'd be higher. But it's kind of funny, like going into a meeting, no one like wants to negotiate with me. It's just like, this is our price, and they're like, yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, I just never really thought about like, I always thought like, yeah, this would be a huge boost for the GripMat brand, not so much like Tom Burden GripMat or Tom Burden brand, where everyone's just like, oh yeah, he's this crazy negotiator. But, so yeah, it's definitely
you become a legend.
yeah, it's kind of funny, but yeah. So if you guys have any questions, any startup questions, yeah, feel free to just reach out, and I'll do everything I can to help you out.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. We're right up against our hour. So I guess what I would suggest is, unless we don't have any big questions coming across right now. So what I would suggest is, if anybody has, hold on a second. I do have one. Question for Tom.
I have extra time for questions, or if not, we can just reach out to me on Facebook.
I do have one here. It says, question for Tom. What advice would you wish you had have gotten when you first started? And then what advice would you give someone who wants to pitch on Shark Tank? So 2 questions there.
Okay. So question for Shark Tank, I would say, don't get excited ever. Because and I didn't get excited, and that was something I was really glad that I did. Because the thing is, you'll get an email say you're in the top 10,000, you're in the top whatever, and then people want to celebrate. And it was actually to the point when Kate called me the first time, she's like, you're in the top 1,000. Oh my gosh, yay! Are you excited? And I was like, yeah, this is exciting. And I could tell she didn't get the reaction I thought she would get, because I was constantly thinking, I'll be excited when I'm sitting in an audience watching it on TV for the first time. Because the thing is, you can film in front of the sharks. You can even get a deal with the sharks and still not air. So,
wow.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, airing is a very big part of this. So, and the thing is, 120 air out of 60,000. So the percentages are pretty staggering. So, when I say don't get excited, don't get, excited that you're in the top 10,000. And to me, if I get excited and it doesn't work out, then it just is a huge letdown. And
Right.
I guess that kind of goes into with when I started, what would be something I would like to know is, you're going to get 100 promises and only one or two will come through, because, that's how things work, of people saying, oh yeah, I'll buy it. That'd be great. I would love to buy that. And then it's like, hey, here's the product. The product finally arrived. You still want to buy it? And they're like, oh, well, it's kind of high priced. And it's like, we talked about the price before. Wasn't an issue then. What's the deal? So yeah, I guess, don't let the low, people turning you away, or things not working out the way that you would anticipate, don't let that get your hopes down. It's kind of tough, because now I'm always pretty steady, where I don't get very excited. The thing is, I'm not very, bummed out or destroyed ever. So it's kind of hard to basically have the ups and not the downs. But yeah, it's definitely, I see a lot of people, something doesn't go through and they're just like, just wrecked.
They're crushed.
They're crushed. Yeah.
So I guess keep a level head, and don't let the highs get too high or the lows get too low, huh?
Right. Because the thing is, if you are on a high, that's just, you're about to get spiked into the ground. So yeah, just be ready for that.
So what is one thing though so you said you weren't going to get excited about it until you're sitting in the audience watching it. So you did that. You sat in the audience and you watched it. You had a viewing party in Ohio. What's one thing that you allowed yourself to kind of get excited about at that point? Because by that point you're on. You had earned it.
Yeah, that point there's also a lot of mixed emotions, because I didn't know how they were going to cut the film, if they're going to, because there was a point where there was a couple parts where I did look pretty nerdy. Like, I did bring up the fact that Richard and I have the same birthday, and it was kind of awkward. And then
that got cut.
When it got really awkward, I followed up with saying, and we're both left-handed. So I was like, okay, that was not good.
That was kind of creepy, yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of creepy. So I didn't know how they were going to cut it, and I was actually had a lot of adrenaline going through me. So and then on top of that, we were pretty low on inventory, so I was kind of stressed about the inventory issue. So yeah, I mean, I was still pretty excited and did have a blast. It just at that point for me, when I was like, yeah, this is the part I'm gonna, feel proud, and I did feel proud, but there's just so many moving parts that it is kind of hard to relax. But yeah, it's definitely now, starting to reap the benefits. And another thing is, I think as time progresses, we're going GripMat will definitely see the fruits of each shark. So it'll definitely just be a reminder of, of gratification from being on Shark Tank.
Yeah. And I'm guessing as a founder, there may never be a time when you can really relax.
Yeah. That is something I kind of struggle with and think about of, when can you relax? Because, there's a lot of times where, I do get a time to relax, and you're constantly thinking like, oh, this needs to be done, or this needs to keep moving forward. But yeah, it's at the same time not made for everyone. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we are a little past our allotted time, so I want to be respectful for the folks on the call, and so I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to say again, Tom, thank you very much. I'm very happy, that you're becoming very happy in your success, and very honored that you are a AeroInnovate alum. I think it's fantastic all the way around, and I'm really excited to see how things move forward for you. And I think hopefully our little talk here today has had some lessons for other founders. And I think, you have gone through a lot of, the same things that other people are probably struggling with right now. You've kind of been there, and you're I feel like you're on the cusp of another big step. And I think that is very exciting. And I congratulate you on that. And I'm excited to have you back as a part of AeroInnovate this summer, right?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be there.
Back in Oshkosh?
Yeah, we'll be in Oshkosh.
Cool. Well, we will see you then. Hopefully we'll see you before that. And if anybody out there has any questions, again, for AeroInnovate, I encourage you to check out aeroinnovate.org. You can always email me directly. It's Slocum, SLOCUMS @uwosh.edu. Tom's information is on Grypmat website, also on their Facebook and on their Instagram. So please check that information out and follow him on those social media channels. And thanks. I appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for being here. And one final thing, we are going to post this webinar and the pictures and the PowerPoint display on our website. So check out that on our website. It'll be there living in forever on our website. So
awesome.
Thanks. Enjoy your time in New Orleans, Tom. I hope the weather gets a little bit better for you and it's not so Ohio-like. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.